Is there not an entire section on this subject?
Yes, so it's unfair. I may have changed my mind about beef, for example.
Is your book for sale about?
Yes.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure. I just go and try and do a better job.
Say it like you mean it. This is my Bible.
Yo, Trey.
What up?
I got something to say.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let Me Tell You, episode 99. I'm your host, Norm, the Master's Dog Dunham, aka the Evangelical Norm. So it's been really nice getting settled in to the new podcast setup. Got a few episodes under my belt. Had a couple of sound issues with one of the episodes on last Saturday. I really appreciate the guys that listen, watch, and catch these things for me and let me know, because I don't always, go through the whole thing. I don't edit when I do these podcasts. I hit record and I talk, and then I hit stop. No editing happens, nothing. If it's that bad, then it just gets stopped and restarted and re-recorded. So I really appreciate guys who are willing to just shoot me a text or a tweet or something and say, hey, your sound is off. This is a problem. This is that. So I was able to, Josh, thank you, buddy, for hitting me up this week and letting me know that the sound was off on that episode. I was able to get it re-recorded and republished the next day. So got those bugs out of the way. And then, of course, the big bug moved into our house. COVID-19 made its appearance in my home this week, and so we're all in the middle of our quarantine time. No one gets to go to work until I think my wife is going back to work on Friday, and I'm going back to work on Monday. And so, yeah, it's just, we're just kind of going with the flow and going with how it goes here. Gratefully, nobody had anything serious. My sister-in-law had some kind of gastric issues, stomach flu type of stuff. My mother-in-law is doing really well. She was the one we were mostly worried about because of her advanced years, but she is, handling it like a champ, basically just mild cold symptoms, which the rest of us had. So if you pray for us to just get through it and get over this thing quickly, and not, of course, now we don't have to worry about it anymore. We've got it. Immunities are there. That's the science. And we should be good to go from this point on. So I do feel like I'm still playing a little bit of catch up on podcasts from the holidays, and then taking an extra week off in the middle of January to make sure everything got finished up in the construction in my house in the basement. So I really do feel like there are things that I missed that I could have talked about that I didn't. One thing that I'm going to just briefly mention, and then I'm going to let it go, and that is the Ravi Zacharias situation. The reality is I don't know enough about it to really speak in depth about it. I have not gone in to look into detail about what happened or anything. Truthfully, I don't want to know. I don't want to know the details. From what I've seen on social media, it's enough to say that I don't want to know the details of what went on in behind closed doors with Ravi. The information is out there. I know enough to know that I don't want to know anymore. So what do we take away from that? The thing that anybody who is in ministry in any way, shape, or form, whether it's apologetics, whether it's evangelism, abortion ministry, hospitality, you name it. If you are involved in some kind of ministry in any way, shape, or form, you have got to be under the authority of ruling elders who can, help hold you accountable, help keep you accountable, and then practice church discipline if necessary. everybody. I mean, if you're a podcaster and you're a Christian and you're doing anything in your podcast from a Christian worldview, you need to be under the authority of elders. You have to be. I don't know what the structure of Ravi Zacharias International Ministries was, but obviously somewhere in there was a point of failure, that there was no accountability for Ravi in these things, and he was able to do all of the horrible things that obviously happened. So at this point, what we do is we pray for Ravi's family. It's got to be horrifying to, one, go through the tragedy of losing Ravi, and then now all of these things that are coming to light of the things that were done, and pray for the victims. Pray for those who were victimized by this man, and the failure of his ministry to keep him accountable. And again, one more time, I've said it throughout, for the last couple of months. It's kind of been a soapbox that I've been on as I've talked about different false teachers in the Master's Dog podcast. You have to be under the authority of church elders and submitted to those church elders. At this point, I would welcome anybody in my church, any of my elders, honestly, anybody in my church to come into my studio, go through their 3 computers here. All have covenant eyes on them, but you can go through, you can look into histories. I'm willing to give up my phone, let anybody look through and check me out. And if there were to be anything found, which there's nothing there at this point, I'm confident in that. But if I were to slip and fall, I want those people to be able to come in and say, Norm, it's time to pull the plug. You need to go into some kind of church discipline. We need to be walking through you and counseling and stuff like that. Obviously, that was something that was missed with Ravi. We've seen many other ministries where men have fallen and not gone through any kind of prescribed church discipline and counseling in order to bring restoration, and then we've watched them just go into folly. Like, I mean, top of my head, Ted Haggard comes to mind, who, horribly fail, very, very visible man, very vocal Christian man, and then he falls horribly, in one of the ugliest ways that you can. And then, supposedly was going to go through this counseling and all this stuff in order. But then a few months into it, he's like, I'm done. I'm starting my own church again. Again, somebody I was listening to, I can't remember who it was, something I was listening to today, that someone said that there were some people, it's almost a threat worse than death to threaten to take away their ministry. I wish I knew who it was that I was listening to hear that, but maybe it'll come to me before the end of the podcast. But so this is my encouragement as we just briefly look at what went down with Ravi Zacharias. Get into a church, become a member of a church under the authority of church elders who can hold you accountable, keep you accountable, and help you walk. I mean, we should all be continuing to grow in maturity and so on. If we don't, if we stop learning, if we stop receiving and being fed from a local pastor, again, I have nothing against the guys that put their stuff out on the internet and stuff like that. But here's the reality. In years, I mean, I've probably watched maybe 2 John Piper sermons in full. I've watched maybe 2 in full John MacArthur sermons. I've seen Vody speak at conferences and stuff like that. Jeff Durbin, James White. I mean, I get learning from James White from his podcast. I don't watch Apologia's sermons. I listen to my pastor's sermons. I'm not listening to Doug Wilson. I'm not listening to Toby Sumpter. I listen to their podcasts, and that they're not my teachers. They're not my elders. They're not my pastors. I listen to my sermons from my pastor, and I'm not saying it's bad to listen to these. I know where I'm being fed, and then I know where I can gain other information and so on. And I just don't get it through their sermons. I get it through their podcasts and stuff like that because I'm being fed. If you're not in a local church, you cannot take these men's sermons that are online as a substitute for local ministry. Okay? Again, you can listen to all the Doug Wilson sermons or James White sermons or John MacArthur sermons you want. You can listen to them. But if you're not sitting in their church underneath their pastorage, pastoral ministry, then they're not your pastor. And you're still missing something if you are not in a local church. So that's going to be my encouragement, and that's going to be all I have to say about Ravi Zacharias and that whole situation is if you're involved in ministry, get into a church, get under the authority of a local elder, and have accountability. So with that, the other stuff that's going on, it's I guess it's impeachment day again, right? It's like Groundhog Day. Donald Trump is now not only the excuse me, he is now the most acquitted president of as far as impeachment and stuff like that. But again, here's the reality: Trump Derangement Syndrome is real, and I'm hoping that it's now kind of run its course because there's really not much else they can do. I mean, Mitch McConnell, I guess, mentioned that there can be criminal trials and stuff like that. Now people are going to go after Trump on a criminal level and so on. But as far as impeachment and stuff like that, it's all over. He's no longer the president. He's out. He's gone. Joe Biden is in. Yes, we can talk about impropriety in the election. We can talk about all those things. I do think there still needs to be investigation, and who knows what happens once that investigation happens, if it ever happens. I doubt it will ever happen, but we now are in a spot where we need to be moving forward. But of course, we had this another impeachment trial, which was ridiculous because anybody who's going to be intellectually honest with themselves to say that Trump incited what happened on January 6th truly is intellectually dishonest. And I'm looking at you, if you're that guy that is saying, "Oh, Trump incited." No, he didn't. If you stop and listen to the things that he said, there was never anything in any of the speech that he gave on the 6th or anything else that incited the violence that happened. Do I condone the violence that happened? Absolutely not. But it's not Trump's fault. I mean, granted, these were people who were part of the Trump cult. And, but I can't blame Trump for what these other people did, especially when the reality is nothing that he said indicated that he was calling for violence. Now, granted, the people who presented the evidence, and I love, there was an interview, MSNBC, was it CNBC? There was a show where Trump's, one of his attorneys was on and going through the questioning and stuff, and he started talking about the doctored evidence. And the reality is they doctored evidence. They selectively edited the videos and the things that he said to make it sound like he was inciting violence. But when you listen to everything, I mean, it's the same as the whole, why won't you condemn white supremacist groups and why won't you condemn these people and blah, blah, blah. I mean, when this man has condemned them more in the public realm than anyone else because he's constantly being asked about it, right? I mean, from the situation that happened in Charlotte, where, of course, they were what inspired Biden to go ahead and run, where again selective editing showing that there were fine people on both sides, and that's where they left it, and they didn't play 2 minutes down in the speech or the questioning where he said, white supremacists and all these things should be condemned and are condemned. But no, they didn't play that for you because, again, the media is dishonest. The Democrats are dishonest. And the reality is the Republicans are dishonest too. But they just didn't have to be in this situation. So the trial is held. The impeachment is done. The House voted 232 to 197 to approve a single article of impeachment. And then the Senate acquitted him by the vote of 57 to 43. So they didn't get to the 2/3 vote necessary, but 7 Republicans voted along with the Democrats to impeach him, but they didn't get to the 2/3 majority, which I think they need 67 votes in order to impeach to convict him. So he is acquitted, even though the vote was 57 to 43 saying he was guilty. They needed to get 67 votes to say he was guilty, and they just couldn't get that. So, all that being said, he is eligible to run again in 2024. I hope he doesn't. Again, I never voted for him. I didn't really care much for him. I can say that I was pleased with some of the policies that came out of his administration. But I never was on board with Trump from the beginning. I left the Republican Party when they gave him the nomination. I may rejoin the Republican Party this year. I actually am looking at potentially running for office in 2022 locally in state legislature. So I will likely register as a Republican and run as a Republican. So there's a little, just a little teaser for what may be coming up in the future for me. But so it's done. It's over. The impeachment, they tried, they failed. And again, what were they going to do? Impeachment is there if there's a conviction. It is to remove the man from office. He's already gone from office. So the arguments that it was actually an unconstitutional thing do bear some weight. You can't really impeach a former president. I mean, if that's the case, then I'm sure that people are going to be going back and trying to impeach Bush, impeach Obama. I mean, we can find all kinds of things that we could go back and impeach the former presidents on. Luckily, Joe doesn't have to worry about that. He's just got to watch out for the 25th Amendment. So there's that. And then, of course, that also, as we're talking about all this that happened, we have to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because this woman just drives me nuts. So there was a big tiff going back and forth between her and Ted Cruz, apparently. She posted something to do with the GameStop and the stock market and all the stuff that was going on there. Short sale. I again, not a lot of stuff that I really understand a lot of. All I know is apparently a lot of hedge funds lost a whole lot of money because some young gamers in their basement stuck it to them. I don't know how it all works, but so Ocasio-Cortez tweets something about that. Ted Cruz says he agrees, fully agree. And that she apparently lost her mind at that because, I mean, God forbid that anybody, agree with you from the other side of the aisle. So she was said something to the effect that you tried to get me murdered, which, again, can we not find some kind of level of intellectual honesty in our politics? I mean, that's just, the most absurd thing that and she's said some really dumb stuff, but this goes beyond the pale to actually accuse Ted Cruz of trying to have her murdered. One, on the 6th of January, she wasn't even in the Capitol. She wasn't even there when they invaded the building. She was blocks down the street in another office building, with police coming to check on them. So, and again, I've heard people talk about, well, I won't question what kind of fear. You know what? I will. I don't believe that she was in danger for a minute. And I don't think she was in fear for her life for a minute. It's all an act that she puts on Twitter for the people who are blinded and not willing to look at reality, to have something to grab onto. And in reality, I mean, I think making a statement like that, saying Ted Cruz tried to get me murdered, if what Donald Trump said could be impeachable for trying to incite violence, then what she tweeted could be impeachable for trying to incite violence. Because that could literally, to say that Ted Cruz tried to get you murdered could cause people. I mean, we saw it with the Bernie bro who went to the softball game or the practice where the Republicans were and shot Steve Scalise. So, and again, we can't blame Bernie for what that guy did, right? We can't blame him for that. And I wouldn't blame Ocasio-Cortez if something were to happen. But again, based on their logic and what they're doing with Trump right now, this could also be considered inciting violence. Excuse me, I don't usually have to get a drink in the middle of a podcast, but I needed to take a drink. It's the COVID. So yeah, this was just a whole ridiculous thing that I didn't think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could irritate me more, but you know, she's like, here, hold my beer. Let me just show you just how much I can irritate you with my ridiculousness. This woman, I hate to call people stupid, but this woman is stupid. And just she's a liar. Let's see, what other things can I call it? Let's just see how much we can say to get YouTube to really shut us down. But yeah, it is intellectually dishonest to try to use what happened to say that Ted Cruz tried to get you murdered. I mean, that's beyond disgusting. That's horrible and wrong. So, and again, just like Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is our girl, Gina Carano. So, is it Cara Dune? Cara Dune is a character from The Mandalorian that she played fantastically. She played this character great. And now she's been fired because she tweeted something, again, about Jews being beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors. Basically, that what the Nazis did in Germany is they got the populace to hate the Jews enough that they were able to remove the Jews. And it's reality, it's history, it's what happened. And I think she used that as a comparison of, you know, what our society is doing to conservatives right now. Is there truly there? I mean, it's just about getting the society to hate them enough that you can remove them. I mean, we see that in persecuted churches and persecuted Christians around the world. They are hated by the society first, the culture. Then the government can make their way in to remove them and do what happens in communist countries and stuff like that. We see in China where Christians are persecuted, and that's kind of the path, the vein that has been taken. The government does everything they need to do to get the people to hate them, and then the government can move in and start to persecute them as well. So there was nothing incorrect or really offensive about what Gina posted. But what that did is it, you know, apparently it offended somebody enough that that Disney decided to cancel her and fired her from The Mandalorian. But the good news is she has signed a deal with Ben Shapiro and the people over at Daily Wire. They've got a movie that was out, and I'm actually hoping to find it and watch it and I'll do a review of it. I'm going to be doing a couple other movie reviews for some Christian movies that I just saw, and I want to do I can't remember the name of it, Run, Hide, Fight, something like that just came out. So the Daily Wire is moving into doing movies from a conservative worldview or whatever. They're just doing good movies. And so they've worked out a deal with Gina Carano to act in and direct the next movie that is coming out from the Daily Wire. So I'm really excited to see that. She has really shown herself to be a really good actress. I mean, she's a former MMA fighter. I can't remember the show, another movie that she was in or series or something. I can't remember if it was a Marvel. Oh, she played, I think she was the girl in Deadpool. So, and yes, I'm ashamed to even say that I've seen Deadpool. I only saw the first one. I refuse to see any of the other ones. So yeah, but she's played in a couple of different shows and former MMA and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what is going to come about with a collaboration. I'll learn to speak. Collaboration between her and Ben Shapiro and the folks over at Daily Wire for this next movie to come up. And then hopefully, again, I'll be able to bring you a good review on the movie that they just put out over there at Daily Wire. And look forward to a couple. Keep your eyes out for probably a lot of new unsolicited episodes coming up over the next few weeks with like 3 or 4 CHH albums that are coming out, and then a couple of Christian movies that I'm going to do reviews of that I've just recently watched. So you can see, be on the lookout for those and some stuff to look forward to. And that, speaking of, this is a good time to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and hit the notification so when those episodes do come out, you'll be ready and you'll know when they're there. So yeah, that's it. That's what's going on in the world right now, and that's what's happening. Again, and so as we see this cancel culture that is acting up the way that it is and really trying to, well, Gina Carano and somebody else, what's another one? There was somebody recently canceled, somebody not so recently canceled. Lore TV. Here, let me just throw this out. This is where I'm trying to go with this. Lore TV is the creation of John Speed and Marcus Pittman, who it's going to be a competitive entity against Netflix and Disney Plus and all these other platforms where streaming movies are happening and so on. And it's going to be coming from a Christian worldview. And so we're going to be able to find, babies are murdered here, babies are still murdered here, will be available. They've put out a call to, Gina, we want you to come here. Even Roseanne Barr. They've tried to, anybody who's been canceled by the culture, Lore is like, look, come over here to us. We'll bring you on as long as you're willing to work within our parameters and stuff like that. But they're not going to be making porn or extremely R-rated movies or anything like that. But I can see that there will be good movies that are going to come out of this. And so, again, as cancel culture is trying to put people out, we're watching people lose their Twitter accounts and stuff, and we're seeing these other entities rise. Gab and Parler and Lore TV and, Gab TV and all the different things where Rumble and a lot of alternate free speech alternatives are rising up. And so, again, from where I stand and what I would say from a Christian worldview, I would say don't abandon those other ones, but don't conform. I mean, don't be conformed to the point, right? Post the things that you're going to post. Speak the truth that you need to speak, whether it's God's word or whatever. And then if they do start canceling you, so be it. have your presence on these other places. But I would say, in order to do what it is that we are called to do, get your presence on everything. I've been seeing a bunch of stuff. Parler finally popped back up today, or maybe yesterday. Parler is back. So I, jump back over there. But I'm seeing a bunch of stuff on Gab now where people are like, no, don't do Parler. Don't. You know what? Do Parler. Do Parler. Do Gab. Do Clout Hub and MeWe. I can't really in good conscience recommend MeWe. Here's my thing with MeWe. I created an account. I followed Steve Dace. It was the only person that I have as a contact on MeWe at this point right now. And then just started to explore. And within 30 minutes, I came across naked women. And so deleted it, got rid of it, took it off my phone, said I'm done. And I may go back and check into it down the road. Hopefully they'll get some better parameters in there to where you're not just assaulted by this. Again, I know that Twitter has porn, but if you want porn on Twitter, you really have to go look for it. You're not just going to find it pop up in your face. Instagram is not full out porn, but I mean, I get assaulted by pictures of very scantily clad women anytime I go into the Explore tab on Instagram, except on Fridays when I'm down at the abortion mill preaching the gospel. Then as I go after, literally, I kid you not, if I leave there, after I leave, if I go into my Instagram, it's filled with pregnant women and babies. So that's one of those things where the AI is kind of a good thing. But so my point is, stay on all the platforms that you can, as long as you can, as long as they will allow you. And then, make sure you've got your platform set up on the free speech ones and use them. I mean, again, I'm putting out all my content on everywhere. I'm putting it out on Gab. I'm putting it out on Facebook. I'm putting it out on YouTube. I'm putting it out on Twitter. It's still there until they won't let me put it there anymore, and then likely it's just going to be Gab and Parler and so on. But I'm not going to say, well, I am invested in Gab. Literally, I have put money into Gab for a pro account so I can do this, because that's as much as I want to support it and see this free speech and have the ability to do what I'm doing over there with Gab TV and stuff like that. But I'm not going to kick Parler to the wayside because I'm invested in Gab. I want to see both of these companies succeed and do well. Rumble needs to get a little bit better. I'll try to upload a video to Rumble. It takes almost an hour sometimes for the video to upload and be processed, and then sometimes it doesn't get published and not open for public to see for days. So Rumble's got to get better before I invest that much time into it. They've got to get to the point where my time investment is less and a little bit. Gab, it takes me about 20 minutes to get a video uploaded and good to go. I mean, obviously YouTube is really quick and easy. So as long as they'll let me do it, I will continue to do it, because we are called to preach the gospel at all times, and we have to use words because they're necessary. Until next time, Soli Deo Gloria.